Well, as I run a mental health support group, I think I can safely say that I have an anxiety disorder, so I will do my best. So I'm going to talk about mental health issues within the community and what queer group leaders and people within groups can do to lessen the burden. I'm going to start off with some statistics, just so everyone can know how startling or how profound the problem is. So approximately 1 in 4 queer people are currently experiencing a major depressive episode. So this is a clinically defined major depressive episode, and currently experiencing, not just over the course of their lives, but currently. So you take 4 people, 1 of them will be experiencing it right now. This compares to 1 in 16 in the general community, so it's 4 times higher. And also anxiety disorders are twice as likely in the queer community. Queer people also have the highest rates of suicide of any population in Australia. And when I say population, that could be an age group or where they're living. So if you take any of these subpopulations, then queer people actually have the highest rate of suicide within any of those. And also there are groups within our queer groups, as was explained earlier, and these groups also have even higher rates of mental illness or suicide rates. So a lot of the reasons for the higher rates of mental illness within our community comes down to discrimination from the general society and exclusion. A lot of this we can't control, but we can do some things ourselves. So first I'm going to address anxiety, which is the most common mental illness within general society. And it's like to say, when you're anxious, you need to socialise, but it is the hardest thing to do. And so the actual solution can actually be the hardest thing to come over. And so for example, when I get anxious, I find it really afraid to talk to people. So people actually think I'm being rude. And then when people think I'm being rude, then I can kind of sense it and I get more anxious. And another example I have is pretty relevant to the speech I'm making right now. Anyone on TV or anyone famous, I'm terrified to talk to. So I apologize if that's happened. And so when I was younger, so early 20s or in my late teens, I was terrified to come to a queer group. Part of it was because I thought I'd have nothing to talk about. So what are some things we could do to help so it makes it easier for people to come to these groups in the first place? Now, some of these things might seem pretty obvious, but I thought I'd mention them anyway. Simple things like having on your website, everyone's welcome, we're a friendly bunch. That could help because, I know it seems silly, but if I read that on a website, I immediately think, okay, they actually are friendlier. Like, you only say that if you are a friendly bunch, I guess. So, I don't know, it just would help me. And stuff like that, a lot of groups are doing now on Facebook. They say they have photos of people having fun, or just the surroundings, just having photos of where you play, so when someone comes to a new group, it looks a bit familiar, and even that can help. And Pink Tennis used to have incentives for first-timers, so a free hit to begin with. Unfortunately, they had to stop this because it got a bit blurry. But having incentives for first-time people to come along can help as well. And this one I found particularly important to my group. Now, I don't have this actually written on my website, which I probably should, but having a note on your website saying something along the lines of, if you would like to come and meet me separately first, that's fine, because a lot of the time people find it very difficult to come to a group that's already established. And so just meeting someone one-on-one can be really helpful. And a lot of people have just contacted me separately and I say, oh, do you want to come along early? And I get talking to them, and by the time they come to the group, they already know me reasonably well, and it's a lot easier. Okay, once they're in the group, I often look for people who are to the side and finding it a bit hard to join in, and can go up to them, start a conversation, and then once they get talking to you, then you can sometimes, incorporate them into the main group or whoever else is there, and giving everyone, same kind of thing, give everyone a chance to participate. So often at the beginning of a meeting, I say to people, I want everyone to have the chance to talk. Some people, they come in with issues, they want to vent them, and I could imagine how frustrating it would be if you get to the end of the group and you go home and it's like, well, I didn't have my chance to talk about the problem. So I say at the beginning of the group, if someone hasn't talked for a while, could someone please cut in and ask how you're going? Just give them a chance. And it doesn't have to be the same person every time, just for people to be aware of that. And to share speaking time in a chatting group, or in tennis, I found a problem that people of different standards don't want to play with each other, and I find this a bit frustrating because the main point of Pink Tennis, or the Canberra Gay and Lesbian Tennis Club, as they prefer to be called now, sorry, but I'm just going to call them Pink Tennis because it's easier, is that, so people with different standards don't want to play each other. But my advice is, if these people who are usually of the higher standard, if they want to play higher standard, go and play pennant, go and play competitions. This is a social group, so. And the same thing might apply to squash or other sporting groups in Canberra. So I'll get into depression now. So as I said before, depression rates are 4 times higher in the queer community. Again, if someone looks down, ask them if they're okay, but usually this is not enough, because I know if I'm down and someone asks me if I'm okay, even if I have tears running down my eyes, I'll go, yeah, I'm fine. And so you've got to really ask, are you sure? And then it gives them an extra chance. So just the way you say it, just so they can tell that you're really concerned. It's really in your delivery a lot of the time. And there's this really great initiative, Are You OK Day. This is only 1 day a year, but it can be any day. And once you ask people that, hear them out, obviously. And it's the same kind of cycle with depression. If I'm feeling down, I generally don't want to go out, or if I do go out, I'm not as much fun to be around. So I'm conscious of this, and so then I stay away, and then I get more depressed. So if this starts happening, and someone who might be a regular at a group and stops coming for a while, if you've got their contacts, drop them a line, see how they're going, say, oh, it'd be really good if you could come again, and how are you feeling? So just get in touch. So the last thing I wanted to mention, has already been discussed a lot already, is that, people often get marginalised within our own community. I want to give another example that didn't come up, is that I know a couple of bisexual men who actually choose to identify as gay within the queer community because they found that they have experienced more acceptance if they do that. Okay, so the first thing I would have to confess is when I've given advice on how to incorporate people with mental illness within our groups, I confess I do not do all those things. I apologise. I will blame that it is emotionally draining. You do. I try to do a lot of those things. It's just advice at this stage. And I've been very lucky not to experience much discrimination at all for being queer or for my mental illness. But as we know, many, many people have, and obviously this explains why anxiety and depression is so much higher in other forms of mental illness. And I haven't been suicidal either, and I've felt so bad in the past, and people must feel worse than that to actually feel suicidal. So taking a minute to just think about the extent of how bad you have to feel. So try to empathize a little, or empathize to a degree. My last point is try to be open about your mental illness. Just like coming out in decades gone by and even recently has helped with queer liberation. Same with mental illness. I've had bad experiences when I've told people. A lot of the time people ask me, oh yeah, what are you doing? And I'm not doing very much. Like I'll be just doing something part-time or something, and they're like, oh, what else? And I say, I've had a health problem with mental illness and I've had a bad reaction. But the vast majority of the time, it's been a very understanding reaction. And yeah, so that just helps raise awareness. And just as long as they understand, and more people are understanding this, that it's not a weakness, it is an illness. Thank you.